All right, so we'll just jump into this. I think this should be a valuable lunch and learn because, quite frankly, I didn't feel so hot about last week's with the internet kind of breaking down on us, and it was a really busy day on my end. So these things happen. We keep pushing forward, and hopefully this one will be really valuable for you. 30-minute agenda today. Brief social selling intro. At this point, I think most of the people who are hopping on this call should be familiar with what social selling is from a 30,000 foot view, but we always have the newbies coming in, so we do want to at least introduce the concept. And then we're going to jump right into conversion, right? Convert and capture. So one thing with the social selling program that people often wind up focusing on is when can I get these prospects out of my social ecosystem and into that real world conversation, into that cup of coffee situation, etc. So we're going to dive right into that. And I don't think we'll have enough time to go into HubSpot and CRM and how to manage those prospects to help facilitate that conversion. But if we don't get there, we'll do that part next week. And then we'll jump into the Q&A. So for people who have not been in this lunch and learn, or for not familiar with who I am or what BizNexus is and who BN.Digital is, I've been doing deal origination for the duration of my career, and that's evolved from the cold calling days right into social selling. So I feel like I've really kind of been on the tip of the spear with deal origination for a very long time now, and built BizNexus and specifically BN.Digital to help share some of that knowledge and the strategies that I picked up along the way. Social selling specifically is a strategy that leverages the data and all things social, right? In terms of targeting, in terms of visibility, to fill up an online Rolodex, to fill up your online social ecosystem full of your primary target prospects, and then the referral prospects, that referral flywheel that can add value very quickly over the short term, but over the long term winds up being very, very valuable in terms of delivering ongoing streams of primary prospects over time. End goal of all of this is to get the sit down, is to get the call, to get the meeting with somebody who's not going to waste your time, right? Whether it's somebody who's ready to close at that moment, or could be somebody in the future, or could provide other primary prospects who would be potential closes, whatever that is for you. If you're a business broker, it's a transaction. The goal is to get that face-to-face meeting and to get these prospects familiar with who you are and your value proposition online, that when they're ready, you can engage with them in a real world relationship, in a business relationship, or in an engagement that results in a transaction. So how to access our services, we're talking about these every week. Pretty straightforward. You can just go to BizNexus is the easiest way in for most people because you're already signed into BizNexus. And when you're logged in, you can just go right up into the header under lead generation, find sellers, find buyers, agency, whatever you're logged in as. It's going to be different for you depending on what your focus is. And that will take you straight to BN.Digital, right? www.bn.digital. And yes, brand new pop-up here. This is true. LinkedIn makes up more than 50% of all social traffic to B2B websites and blogs. So this is important stuff, and it's only becoming more important as we move forward in this new world that we're all in. 5 stages of social selling, basically making sure that your profile, your online brand is optimized for your end target prospects, meet the pain points of that end target prospect, and then building the campaigns, the nurturing campaigns, speaking to that prospect over time, familiarizing them with your value proposition, who you are, what you do, why your expertise, to capture, right? And that's where we are today, is in this capture phase. So diving right in, capture one. Let's say you've been running a social selling program, right? You're bringing people into your Twitter, into your Facebook, into your LinkedIn, into whatever you're engaging with, whatever platform is relevant to you. You have these leads in your social ecosystem. How do you get them out of there, right? That's the goal of all this, that cup of coffee. How do you pull them from LinkedIn and get them on a phone call with you, right? One quick capture is sending a direct email, right? So every time you have a targeted contact that you bring into your social ecosystem, right? It's not just a random person, but ideally, if you're running a focused social selling program, if you're going after divorce attorneys, for example, because they can potentially provide you with business transactions over time, ideally, you can follow up a connection with a divorce attorney with a direct email off of LinkedIn, something to the effect of, if it's John Doe lawyer, John, just ping you with my email and my direct contact info, as messages on LinkedIn tend to fall through the cracks. If you ever want to reach out for a chat, happy to have an intro conversation. Followed with your email, obviously, your number, your contact info, a link to your website. If you use Calendly or another calendar system, the opportunity to just schedule an intro call directly from that email. So that's a good one. There are tools that you can use for this. This changes over time. Yam is a good one, and I'll just briefly do this, right? So yet another mail merge. This is free. If you are using Google, you can use that. I'll put the link in the notes of this when we put these when we put this up on the site. But just remember, yet another mail merge, Yam. You can link this up with a Google sheet with a list, and then if you have a way to pull these contacts at scale off of Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn or from your CRM, you can put them right into Yam, or you can just do this one by one with specific targets for specific emails. That makes sense. Capture 2, newsletter, right? So you should have everybody in your social should have a big bullseye on their forehead to get rolled into a regular newsletter, right? So ideally, whether you're sending an email that invites them into the newsletter, whether you're using landing pages, or whether you're using some sort of other lead capture, or some people will just roll over contacts in their newsletter with a clear unsubscribe. That's up to you. But everyone should be rolled over into a newsletter, so that once you bring them into LinkedIn, once you bring them into Facebook, once you bring them into Twitter, they're going to see your posting. They're going to see your value proposition on an ongoing basis if you're doing this the right way. And then if you can touch them a couple times a month through email, that's a much better channel to be salesy, to add the CTA, to clearly ask for the phone call or offer the free business valuation, or consultation, and doing that on a regular basis, with blog posts in the newsletter that you ideally wrote that help establish you as a qualified authority. Very, very important in terms of nurturing and capturing these prospects when they're getting ready to entertain the idea of buying whatever it is that you're selling, right? Whenever they're entertaining the idea of engaging with your services. Good tools for this: MailChimp, Constant Contact, Get Response. Those are popular with business brokers. If you're doing anything at a really big scale, just ping me directly and I can give you some other tools. But generally speaking, for people who are running boutiques, whether that's boutique buyout, or if you're a business broker, or if you're in the insurance world, these tools work really well for single practices, or 3 to 5 people in an office, etc. Capture 3, email drip. Now you want to be really careful with this, because you don't want to just start spamming your new contacts on an ongoing basis by entering them into a random email drip. The whole idea of social selling is that you're building up this online Rolodex and proving value, pushing value to them, right? You don't want to just start pushing a sale the second you get them into your ecosystem. That makes absolutely no sense. Just go do a cold email program that's just based on lead generation, and that's not social selling. You want to familiarize these people with who you are, what you do, get them comfortable, and be salesy in the right channels, and try to capture them in the moment that they're actually ready for your offering, for your services. So if you're going to do an email drip, be careful. And ideally, you're being very, very specific. So if you have a landing page or an article, something along those lines, where you're pulling a very targeted prospect. So going back to that divorce attorney, maybe you pull that divorce attorney into an email drip, and then you have 3 emails that are clearly about what you do or the pain points most commonly experienced by a divorce attorney in XYZ location, right? Very, very specific. So that it's not just a general email that winds up in their email box and pisses them off. And then every time they see your brand or your social posting going forward, because they're in your ecosystem in these other channels, they're going to think of that spam email that pisses them off. So be careful with that. Again, good tools for this if you are going to do it. Constant contact, get response. I encourage you to watch conversions, open rates, clicks, unsubscribes very carefully if you're going to be doing this as part of your social selling program. And again, be hyper specific. Capture for webinar. This has been really popular since the pandemic started rolling out. Everybody is doing webinars. Drives me nuts, but this is the reality that we're in. So, it's a great way to get people off of social, right? So if you invite your key targeted contacts to targeted webinars that are specific to them, right? So going back to the divorce attorney again, maybe if you're a business broker, you team up with a financial advisor, an accountant, and you have a webinar that's related to how to prepare the value assets in the event of a sudden divorce. Something, I don't know, that's a bad example, but you get the point. It's very specific, where if you're going to invite that divorce attorney to be in that webinar, the conversion rate is going to be high if you do it correctly, right? You're going to be able to pull that person in. You're proving your expertise. You can have a clear CTA, so you can clear call to action. You can ask them to call. You can have a giveaway. You can give them access to that webinar, to the notes of the webinar, to the slides, in exchange for something that they give you, in exchange for a meeting, in exchange for an email. And then if you want to potentially take that webinar and put it in an advertising campaign, on LinkedIn, for example, you can push that webinar out to divorce lawyers in whatever geographic region you're in, right? Once you have this webinar, it's a great thing. That's a great way to actually spend money on advertising, is to do that laser targeted B2B advertising and show it only to that exact target. So again, webinars, we see a lot of these things flaming out right now, and it's just because they're general education. I think people are generally getting sick of it. So if you want to have a webinar that's going to be relevant, keep it specific to that end prospect. This thing, for example, the Lunch and Learn, the feedback has been good, right? Every week we're checking, we're asking for feedback. The second this starts to really get lukewarm, if it's not really hitting a nerve, if people aren't interested in social selling, as much as they are 3 months from now, as much as they are today, we'll kill it, right? We don't want to kill our brand. This is something that is doing well right now. So we're going to keep doing it, but it's very specific, right? We're targeting people who have already shown clear interest in social selling, mostly business brokers, but pretty much everybody's working in that space of business acquisition and sale. So think of it that way. Keep it focused. Capture 5, LinkedIn articles. This is interesting because I personally hate LinkedIn articles because they don't really get a lot of traction, at least for me and for my colleagues, compared to some other tactics on LinkedIn specifically. LinkedIn articles are, what are they for? In my opinion, they're there to really help you establish your technical knowledge of your domain, right? You can get into an issue that helps prove you know what you're talking about. It's not designed for mass distribution. It's not like a post where you want to get thousands of eyeballs on it. It's more of a the point name versus pull in and capture. So if you have an article that's very focused, staying with this divorce attorney analogy, if you have an article that's very focused on the timeline for how assets are valued in a divorce and what exactly happens with those, with the asset valuation, and are you getting a good valuation? Are you getting a bad valuation? Why? Something very, very focused. from there, you can use that article. If your social selling program is targeting that divorce lawyer, then get that article in the featured section of your profile. You can share that article as part of a social selling campaign. If you're putting them into a drip, you can put that article in. It's helpful. You're sharing something of value. It's highly relevant to them. That's where LinkedIn articles are really great. You have to have the call to action at the bottom of any article that you do, right? Clear, call me for more information, call me for a free consultation, call me to hear more about what exactly I do to help divorce attorneys and divorce lawyers manage their clients to the best outcome, et cetera, right? With articles specifically, it is kind of hard to get that engagement. So join our Slack channel. If you haven't, we have a channel in there for LinkedIn articles. So if you have a LinkedIn article, you want to get some likes, you want to get some comments, you want to get some feedback, throw it in there, and we'll help you. We'll help you get there, because you don't want to sharing a LinkedIn article with high value prospects. You're not sharing that LinkedIn article that has no likes, no engagement, no nothing. It's okay. People do it all the time. But if you can get some comments and some eyeballs on there, it helps. So capture number 6, LinkedIn company page, right? A lot of people aren't using this. I don't blame you. Honestly, BizNexus company page is on autopilot. I will rarely post something myself. I'll rarely share something myself from the BizNexus company page. We have our team managing that entirely. But what a company page does, it allows you to be more salesy, to put your offering out more clearly. You can do all of that without the personal brand risk. You still have company brand risk, so be careful with that. But you're not out there beating your own chest saying, like, come to my webinar, come and buy my valuation, enter my value building program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's very easily done through a company page, and then you can share your company post through your personal brand and highlight that very salesy company post in a less salesy way through your personal brand. And that's a great way to get this done. But the company page, again, have the clear call to action, have the contact information. You want to have that clear takeaway of any post or anything put out there through the company page. Humble brag note, that's, if you're not familiar with the humble brag, that's just when you see people, venture capitalists out there on LinkedIn saying, so proud and fortunate to see our portfolio company get a $1 billion valuation, et cetera, et cetera. That's a humble brag, right? They're proud, but they're also calling attention to themselves. You see that on LinkedIn all the time. That is a delicate art form. And it's tough to do. So if you don't want to really fight that battle, just be salesy through your LinkedIn company page and share that through your personal brand. Capture 7, landing pages. This could be a whole separate topic, but landing pages, you can have a very clear focus that's geared towards a very specific target. So going back to the divorce attorney, if you have a landing page that is, the 7 top things you need to think about when guiding a client through a divorce and valuing assets. That's a horrible title. I would whittle that down to a third of what I just said. But the point is, it's a very focused landing page that has value for the divorce attorney that we're talking about today. Everything on that landing page should be focused on that divorce attorney and on one clear call to action. In this case, downloading the ebook, downloading the guide for the 7 top things that you need to think about when giving up your client's assets. Again, that's not the best title, but better than the first time I said it. So, something of value. You can put these landing pages in your featured section. You can put them under a specific services area on your LinkedIn page. So if you have your company page and you've divvied up that if you've broken up that company description on your LinkedIn profile into different services, you can have landing pages for each separate product or service that you offer. Again, that could be and should be a lunch and learn on its own. So we're at 120, and I'm not going to jump into any CRM now because we do want to cut these things off when we're already into the Q&A period. But when you're doing all of this, regardless of what CRM you're in, it's impossible to run an effective social selling program if you're just using spreadsheets, if you're not using a CRM. You can, like, social selling, sure, you can get the leads, you can get highly valuable leads. If you're doing it the right way on the front end, you can get good volume, right? You can scale the process and get a lot of leads. But especially if you're in something like business brokerage, what's the point if they're not thinking of selling for another few years, right? You need to have a CRM so that you can go back and nurture these leads. If they're high value prospects, and the sales cycle could be years, right? And so if you want to build that up over time, coordinate with your team effectively, automate a lot of this, a CRM is absolutely critical. So we'll touch a little bit on what I think the key functionalities of a CRM are for business brokerage, for business acquisition and sale. What we do with our clients, we set everybody up in HubSpot. That's a free CRM, user-friendly. I'll just show you a couple things that aren't, I'm not selling HubSpot, but I am selling the concept of the CRM. So I'll show you what we do and how we use it, and hopefully you can take away some value. And that's it. That's all we've got today. So I'm going to leave it at that. And if anybody has any questions, you are welcome to ask. Again, you can ping me in the chat box. I think at this point, so many months into the pandemic, we're probably all familiar with Zoom at this point and how to do this. So if I don't see anything in the next few minutes, I'm just going to sign off, and that will be another lunch and learn in the books. So guys, when I do close out, you will get that request for a review. Again, we want to keep these things valuable. I really don't want this to become like one of these webinars that I'm seeing in my email, in my inbox every day. We're seeing it in, the Facebook groups that were actually engaging pre-COVID have now turned into these self-promotion groups. I want to stay as far away from that as possible. So help me help you with these things. We're taking our time to put these together because ideally it is providing real value. And again, we're going to kill it if it's not. So let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you want us to change anything, if you want us to make it shorter, longer, if you have any topics that you'd really like to dig into. We'll pivot and we'll make the changes that we need to make accordingly. So Randy is asking, where did you say we could put a landing page on LinkedIn? Why don't I cover that topic next week, Randy? Generally speaking, you can put it in the featured section. That's a great place to put your listings. With BizNexus, I've showed users how to share listings in the featured section. But then also, if you have your business brokerage, right? It's a business brokerage ABC. Let's call it company ABC. Under company ABC, you can actually put in different services, right? So you can have business valuation, put a description of what you do for business valuation, and then you could have landing pages that are focused on business valuation. Then maybe your next service is, exit planning, and you put in a description of what you do for exit planning, and then you have very focused landing pages with, ebook giveaways, what have you, that are laser focused on exit planning. And the same thing for sell side work, and then for buy side work, etc. So you can strategically put these things tastefully. Don't turn your LinkedIn profile into a NASCAR. It's just don't make it too noisy. But strategically, and if it's implemented the right way, it can be very effective to help pull these contacts off of LinkedIn and get them into your newsletter, your drip, or that phone call or cup of coffee. So, all right, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Give us your feedback if you can, when you can. I know we're all busy. It would be much appreciated. And we'll see you next week. Hope it was helpful. Thanks.